Hi guys, welcome to Multiplication Properties of Exponents, Part 1. Um, in this particular lesson, we are going to talk about how to multiply exponents and how it applies to both exponents with the same basis, as well as how it applies to scientific notation, which we learned in the last video. So the first thing we need to know is what exactly happens when you multiply exponents? Well, there's a couple things that need to happen before you can multiply the exponents. The bases have to be equal. The exponents then are added together. For example, in this case we have a base of x and a base of x, so we can combine them. And we have a and b as our exponents, so it becomes just x to the power of a plus b. So, for example, let's say I have 3 squared times 3 to the 6th power. I can turn that into 3, keep my base the same, and then add 2 plus 6, which in this case, which would be 8. So my answer would be 3 to the 8th power. All right, so let's do some additional examples with that. So in this case, we have 3 to the 2nd power times 3 to the 5th power. So we could make that 3 to the 2 plus 5th power, which equals 3 to the 7th power, which, if you multiplied it out, equals 2,187. Okay? Now, that's if you have numerals as your bases. If we have variables as our bases, then we just add them together. So in this case, we have b to the 4th power times b to the negative 1 power. All right, so then we have our same base, so b to the power of 4 plus negative 1, which would be b to the 3rd power, because 4 plus negative 1 equals 3. All right, now, this next example looks a little crazy because you have a couple things going on. First of all, we have 2 different exponents being multiplied together within this multiplication problem. So we need to break it down into parts, okay? So the first thing we need to look at is the m's. So we have m to the power of 3 and m to the power of 1, because there's an invisible 1 right here. So in that case, we do 3 plus 1. All right, and then we do the same thing with the n. So we have n to the 4th power times n to the 2nd power. So that would be n to the 4 plus 2 power, which then we just combine them and we get m to the 4th power, n to the 6th power. All right. Okay, so if we look at this one, then in this case, we multiply together. So we combine our x's and we combine our coefficients. So in this case, 2 times 4 is our first section, which we know is 8. X to the 3rd power times x to the 2nd power becomes x to the 3 plus 2 power, which becomes 8 times b to the 3rd power. Or sorry, in this case, x, I don't know why that happened, x power. All right, and it definitely wouldn't be to the 3rd power, it would be to the 5th power. Sorry, guys. Typo. All right. So the answer would be x, or 8x to the 5th power. All right. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to look at some of these problems. So in this case, we have a to the 2nd power times b to the 3rd power. Since they have different bases, can we combine them? No. So my answer is just a squared, b cubed. That's it. Can't simplify it any more than that. Okay? All right. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to actually do numbers 2, 3, and 5. I know it seems random, but there is a method to my madness. So do 2, 3, and 5 in your whisk tonight, okay? Don't worry about 4 or 6. All right, so that's the first part of our lesson. As I said earlier, the second part of our lesson is going to be using this multiplication idea, dealing with scientific notation. So multiplication in scientific notation, which you had a brief intro to in yesterday's lesson, is we just have to multiply the two numbers together by following the steps below. So in this case, we have 2.1 times 10 to the 8th power times 3.2 times 10 to the 4th power. First step, multiply the coefficients together. Our coefficients in this case are 2.1 and 3.2. All right, our next step is to add the exponents together. The base of 10 always remains the same, so this 10 does not go away. In this case, we have 8 plus 4, which is 12. Take those two and turn it into a scientific notation problem. So we have 6.72 times 10 to the 12th power. Now in this particular example, we were lucky because we did not have to fix our scientific notation in any way because our coefficient was already in a number that was between 1 and 10. So make sure that you, after you multiply and everything else, you do check to make sure that it truly is in scientific notation. All right. So, for example, we have this problem right here. So my first step, as it said before, is to multiply my coefficients together. So 2 times 4, which is 8. And then I multiply my bases, or my exponents together. So in this case, we just add 3 plus 4, which is 7. And then we combine this. So then we have 8 times 10 to the 7th power. All right. So pretty simple. Very, very, very simple. Okay. All right. So as I said earlier, what happens if the coefficient is more than 10? Do exactly what I said earlier. Turn it into the correct form of scientific notation. So just like this problem down here, we had 24 times 10 to the 7th power. Well, this is not an acceptable answer, so we have to turn it into 2.4 and then change our exponent here. Okay. All right, so the last thing I want you to do in your WIS tonight is to do this first one and this second one. All right, just do these first two problems for me in your WISC. All right, so that's all I have for you today. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you are confused on anything that we talked about in this lesson. Please make sure that you fully understand how this concept works because it's only going to get more difficult in the next video, which is going to talk about some additional multiplication properties of exponents. All right, so I hope you guys understood all of this. Please let me know if you are totally confused. Otherwise, have a good evening.